Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of Ladies Wrestling Showcase with my co-host Mel. I got it right this time, Mel. Hey, how are you, Mel?
I'm over here.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It is a nice, brisk winter day here in Alberta, and I am dealing with the half foot of snow in my backyard. My chihuahuas aren't, but that's okay. How are you doing, Astrid?
Doing good. Just my only day off in between everything that I have going on at work this week, but I couldn't skip doing this after we had the idea of doing this with none other than Kayla. How are you doing, Kayla?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Yeah,
Nice snowy day in southern Ontario.
I love that
Makes me
it.
feel like I'm right at home.
That's true. I love that for those of you that don't know, this is the second time that I do a first with Kayla. Kayla's our first guest officially in the podcast. She was also my first episode of Astrid and Mel, so she gets to be my first a second time around.
I like to be the first.
First,
I'm
first.
competitive.
Yeah. One thing we wanted to talk about today, we wanted to make it a little bit different from what we had on our last episode. And we want to talk about the Four Horsewomen and their evolution, not only as performers in WWE and wrestling altogether, but talk about the changing characters they had and a little bit of their accomplishments, what they have done, what they're doing now, what we hope they do in the next coming years, and a little bit of the part of like we saw that they, how they got highlighted in NXT when they debuted it. So we also want to talk about the people that we would have wish would have been highlighted during that time in NXT as well. But per our guest, I had to ask her order of the horsewoman for her, so I can know which ones to bring up first. And her favorite, none other than Sasha Banks. We're gonna start with that one because I love Sasha Banks too. She's one of my top favorites. Um, she's one of those that I love watching her evolution, as we want to say, her transformation to the boss and what she is now. So I'm glad you picked that one first, so that way I can highlight her first. So I'm gonna put up the picture on screen, just show you guys what it was like when she was debuted in NXT, just the beginning era, not even the boss yet, to what she looks like now. So here we have Sasha when she first started in NXT. Like Mel, you said you haven't really watched it back then. So what's your take on this when you see her with this gear like this, for example?
Look how young she looks.
She
She's
was
so
like 20
real.
or something there. Like she was not
you know,
old.
she's giving me some strong Aaliyah vibes in this picture, actually. And the gear. I mean, my first thought was a combination of Beth Phoenix and Batman, the classic black and yellow Batman.
Oh, I could see it.
Yeah, this is that the attitude, the beginning of the attitude that Miss Sasha Banks kind of had. I do remember, wasn't she originally with Summer Rae?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were that little friends
With
group, and Charlotte also.
Yeah. Mhm.
I mean, yeah, wow. She'd be little.
She's a baby.
This is not the Sasha that I know.
Yeah.
This is like 16-year-old Sasha.
I think she was like early 20s
Yeah.
in this picture.
Yeah.
Like I think this was 2014, I think.
I think it's about 2014 to
And she's not
15
30
maybe.
yet, I don't think.
No.
No,
Yeah,
she's very
so
young.
like I think this is like 21-year-old
Yeah.
Sasha, maybe.
Still in
Yeah.
great shape.
Mhm.
Great shape.
So how do you feel, Kayla, what looking at that picture versus what she looks like now, like that transformation she's had in her character? Because as Mel mentioned, this is when she was working with Summer Rae, and Summer Rae is the one that actually kind of in a way like created and brought up that boss persona in NXT to what she is now. Like how do you feel like looking at these pictures and seeing the difference? Because for those of you that don't know, officially one of her last appearances. This is what Sasha looks like in recent times compared to what we just saw. So how do you feel, Kayla, seeing this?
For the sake of just putting it out there, Sasha was my favorite because I liked the way she wrestled.
Yeah.
Like I loved it. And then of course like her character, I was like, oh, I always loved her attitude. But the way she wrestled. And like Mel and I were talking about earlier, it's like that's the shape of it as how my preferences of who I like the most in the horsewoman.
Little diamond.
Yeah, a little, yeah. Is that what it is? I can't even make it with my hands. But it makes me feel like, wow, this is like mature Sasha. Like she was like a baby before. Now it's like, oh, this is like, she's good. Like she's the best, honestly. Like I just, whatever. But this was like, I was so emotional when I saw this. But first of all, like 2 women of color, WrestleMania. winning winning a championship, whatever. In general, like who would have thought? Like even when Sasha debuted, sorry, we weren't seeing stuff like this. So there, I don't know. It's just
what's the term the kids are using nowadays? Glow up. I
Oh,
mean, and
yeah.
ironic who she's standing next to.
Yeah, I was gonna say
but
that
even
too.
for Naomi, back when she started, she looked nothing like this.
Yeah.
Like she was so different. But we'll talk about her later when we talk about people in this little evolution. But Sasha's like she only gets better in the ring. Like she was amazing back in 2014, and honestly, she's incredible now. So
I feel like the first picture reminds me of a person who hasn't really found that persona or that character in wrestling yet, versus seeing this now. I feel like she very found herself, not only personally but professionally as well. So it's nice to see how different she looks and like her looks. And I don't know if he made it back then, but because he's the one making her gear all the time, I don't know if he made it when she was in NXT.
I think he still did.
Yeah. But it's just incredible to see that transformation that he made based on her character and the changes she's made, because he's the one that made all these gears when she came back, and all the gears are like the Sailor Moon one that we saw at the Rumble as well. So I feel like her gear is one that always stands out for me as well, and it just helps with the character evolution too. I see this and it doesn't look like the same person, but it is, and it's incredible to see that.
It's funny because I was going to bring this up to Mel, but Astrid, do you go to many like independent shows in your area?
Not really. I wish.
Okay, I know Mel does. So what it reminds me of is like that bright-eyed, bushy-tailed like girl who's about to come out for their first indie match and get
the greenest of the green
by the champ, like completely squashed, and then she's gonna come back and fire. That's exactly what she reminds me of. First
out
match,
here right now, that's Riley Rose.
There you go. Back in Alberta there. It's just, that's what it reminds me of. Like, I'm happy to be here. Like, that wasn't me. It was like,
that was not you. I can attest to that. That was not you.
No, it wasn't me. I look nothing like that. But just that attitude, like, I'm about to go out there for the first time and maybe like get a drop kick in, and whew, match is done in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what it reminds me of.
You say that, yeah. That just happened at the last show.
It's so typical, right? It's exactly, there's a blueprint and that's it. So
well,
no pun intended.
It works, right? When you have the competent workers that can make it work, it works out very, very beautifully.
Yeah, very true. And talking about Miss Rose. There you go.
The queen.
The hugger, Miss Bailey. Look at that gear. I mean, it didn't change much from when she was on the main roster, but still, you can see like it's very simple compared to the design she had later on. So just nice to see something like this. That one, I keep remembering when I see this picture of that moment where she was hugging AJ backstage, and she just goes, "I heard you're gonna put your Divas Championship on the line, so I want to face you." And then she just awkwardly hugs her. And even their match too, I think it's the only time the Divas Championship was actually defended in NXT at the time. So it's incredible to think about it happened to somebody like Bailey. But it just thinking about this, like, how do you feel, Kayla, seeing this picture of like what she used to be and how people thought of her like she's like the John Cena, but for the merch sales, because the kids like all of her merch.
Oh yeah. Well, she was huge. Like, even though she wasn't getting and maybe it's because she didn't like find that fire yet, but she was like a fan favorite. Like, everyone loved her, but nobody like took her serious. I think until Sasha. But she was a favorite. Like, look at her. How could you not like her? Right?
Full disclosure, I actually dressed up as Bailey for Halloween once.
Okay, and we're going to insert a picture of that right now.
The ponytail, the I'm a hugger. I even went to a bar like that and actually had someone recognize me. It was the bartender and the person I ended up dating, but it still is.
I was going to say, was it somebody that is in wrestling? I hope so.
It was.
I love that. That's a great story. But she just like, look at her. Look at the bow. Like, she didn't keep that very long, I don't think. No, I think she ended up ditching that, which is not a bad thing for the headband.
Yeah. Another thing I keep
almost
thinking,
like Bret Hart, giving the bow to kids.
The headband for sure.
And the bracelet too, the slap-on bracelet.
Yeah.
Too.
The bow, I barely remember. I feel like she didn't keep it long because barely
It
remember.
either
Yeah.
kept falling out or she was giving it away or something. But yeah, they didn't stay on there very long. But the nature of her sport would also dictate that that ponytail didn't stay in for very long either.
It stayed, but
Yeah.
it just didn't look as good
Yeah.
at the end.
It just, and
I
another thing is like every time I see that ponytail, I keep thinking of Dusty because Dusty's the one that gave her that suggestion of putting that ponytail sideways the way she did. So every time I saw it, it just made me nostalgic after he passed away too.
yeah.
Did you ever listen to that? I think it was an interview she did where she went to the ring with it in a pony, but then took it out. And he got, like, someone got mad at her. I think it was Dusty at the end. He was like, "Why'd you take it out? Why'd you take it out?" or whatever. And I think it was her ponytail. And then I think ever since then she had it up until she eventually cut her hair.
Mm-hmm.
That Bailey, like that version of Bailey, it was almost like the power and authority that she had as Bailey came from that ponytail. It's like with Sasha Banks, it was almost like her cool sunglasses and her little finger rings, which I'm guilty. I've got them. And I'm guilty getting up in the morning doing them. Boss energy, right? But you're absolutely right. Bailey, very, very marketable. And I actually still follow her little super fan, Izzy, who was always a staple for her at ringside, especially in the Orlando area. Astrid, did you ever have the privilege of seeing or meeting Izzy in your times going to NXT?
I didn't meet her, but I do have a fun story for that though. I was there for the Iron Woman match in NXT. One of my friends had an extra ticket, and he said, "You can go with me." And I wanted to pay him back, and he wouldn't let me. So many thanks to you for me. I was able to watch that show live, and I feel so emotional not only because it was an Iron Woman match and watching it in NXT like live there in person, but something that the cameras didn't show that I think a lot of people actually said it in the internet after the match happened is that I think it was Triple H and Stephanie, if I'm not mistaken, they gave Sasha and her flowers after the match. She actually went over and gave them to Izzy off camera and went back to. So when you see the ending of the match, if you watch it later, you see that she disappears for a couple seconds and then she comes back to like hug Triple H and Stephanie and the whole roster because this is like her goodbye to NXT. So in that moment, she went to Izzy because for those of you that hadn't seen the match, spoiler alert, she took out the little band that Izzy had. She put it on her head and kind of like, mocked her in the ring because she's a Bailey fan,
Epic.
who she's going against, which is absolutely one of my favorite heel moments ever for Sasha.
People still talk about that.
Yeah,
all the time.
it's super iconic and super memorable as well, which I love. But she went over because Izzy at the moment was like, what, 10, 11 years old, perhaps? She was barely because of what happened. Yeah. So a lot of the crap people were booing Sasha, obviously, being that not only is Izzy somebody that people knew her family and knew Izzy in the arena, but also because of Sasha's moves as a heel, people started booing. And it was super loud at the moment. And I remember that so vividly. And then she went back after she took the flowers, gave them to Izzy, and she said something to her in her ear, and then she went back to hug Triple H and Stephanie at the end of the show, which I thought was beautiful, not only because it shows Sasha as like her regular self, and kind of saying like sorry to Izzy for using you for that part of the match, but the fact that they didn't show it on camera because it just takes away from that heel moment after it was done. I love how that was done, and I will never forget seeing that like in person though.
I think because obviously I wasn't there. Obviously. But when that happened, I think they were showing replays of the actual match because when they cut back, she was just getting to them at the end. So I don't know if they would have shown it.
Yeah.
But I don't know because she was still a heel like on the main roster. So I don't know. But when we talk about underrated like matches, that is one of the best matches I've ever seen. But it gets overshadowed because a month before that, or 2 months before that, was Brooklyn. So when people talk about it, but that match, when you look at it, was one of the best like executed matches I've ever seen. And it was a gimmick match, right? So psychologically, probably like, honest to God, one of the best matches ever, like that I've seen ever. Because like they took their own, like each other's moves. They replayed back to Brooklyn. And the emotions, like the Izzy thing and the Titantron, like throwing her into Titantron, taking it. It was amazing. And then like just the end of it. Okay, Sasha's gone. Bailey's on her own, finally. What's going to happen? But it's just psychologically so good. I will always go back to that match if I need any sort of feelings. Like,
I feel that's something that was probably maybe at that time missing in women's wrestling, specifically, is that psychological storytelling that these girls really kind of brought into the forefront, specifically for the WWE, because they've just taken that in leaps and bounds and gotten so much better with their evolution of their storytelling. There's still obviously a lot that they still need to get done. As someone who doesn't watch WWE or AEW Impacts regularly, I'm gonna go to Astrid more on that on what's going on. But from what I hear and see online, there is way less complaining about what's happening with women's wrestling, and that makes me very happy to see.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it just like Kayla was saying, I feel like a lot of people always remember Brooklyn because it was such a big moment and such a staple in like women's wrestling and NXT as well. And I feel like people always forget about this one. And I'm not saying Brooklyn was bad in any way whatsoever, but I feel like this match does get overshadowed because of Brooklyn. But I feel either way, if you love Sasha and if you love Bayley, you need to watch both matches. Like there's no way you can do one without the other, because I feel it's such a complete circle watching both. It's almost like if you haven't seen it, Mel, if you haven't seen it, you have to.
Would we talk about feelings?
I feel like I have.
Brooklyn will always push it just a little bit because people are like, oh my God, Bayley finally won. Like, oh my gosh, like this match is so good. But when we talk about the Iron Woman match, I'm sorry, I have to give the edge to pure wrestling and psychology just slightly to that one. Because they still had amazing psychology in the Brooklyn match, but they like went another step forward and up with the Iron Woman match, because like some of the stuff they did in there was just like, I don't think I've seen it replicated. Maybe only like a few times in regards to like psychology. Like, we'll probably talk about it later, but Becky and Charlotte with their last woman standing match, I believe, like they had really good like psychology, like I'm gonna one up you, I'm gonna do that. They had that, right? And like Bayley and Sasha have had it again in a few matches, like closer, but that was the first time we've ever seen it, especially with the women. Like it was I want to watch that match now. It's so good. Like it gets my feelings.
And that really speaks to the experience and just the veteranness of the workers. I mean, to be able to put on an incredible match that everyone's talking about, and then to move on and put on an even better match, an even more incredible match that people are still talking about. I mean, it really shows you how great these women are in their sport and in their profession.
Actually, Astrid, you'll probably know this. At the time, NXT was doing like a behind the scenes like episodes of NXT around then. Yes, there we go. Okay, so they were doing that around the time of Brooklyn, and in between then and NXT Respect, I think, is when they had that Iron Woman. When you watch those back and they talk about the Iron Woman and how they were told, like, you're going to main event, but it's going to be this, and so on and so forth, like, they put so much pressure on themselves because they were like, okay, we did this amazing match. This will be officially probably our last match for a while together. We're going to be on 2 different shows, but also we need to top Brooklyn. Right? And it was just watching that, like, you get the pressure they themselves put on themselves. And like this picture of Bayley right now, like, damn girl, like compared that, like this outfit first of all, but then also like look at her face, her confidence, like the confidence in her face, like she's just like, I'm the shit. I know I'm the shit. And you all know that I am right now. Like everybody's watching me. And everybody was, right? It was so
She's given me Razor Ramon vibes with the pose.
The only complaint of this moment that I would have would be that Dakota and Io didn't just like come out. You know what I mean? Like they each had their own interests, which was great. But I think it kind of deflated the surprise factor. Like I feel like they should have just like attacked the girls in the ring. I can't remember who was in the ring. I think it was just Becky and Bianca.
And Bianca,
yeah. So I think they should have just came in. But that's just nitpicking because like once they made their entrance and they just like stood on the edge of the ring, nothing happened. I'm kind of just like
underwhelming.
What was that? But so like if Bailey would have just came out. They made their, but I like the three of them together.
Yeah.
I think it's like so cool, and I think Bailey said that she got to choose who was in it. So very interesting.
Yeah.
But she picked well.
Yeah, she really did. And just like I go back to, I think it was at the moment Dakota was doing a stream, and she did say a little bit behind the scenes of like before this happened. And for those of you that don't know, this is when Bailey returned at SummerSlam this year, with, as she said, with Io and Dakota afterwards. She said she had a text, I think, from Bailey, like asking her, like, what would it take for you to come back in a way? And she's like, I kind of like pitched you for the story, and we're hoping it happens. And the rumors were, to say rumors, that Vince didn't want this to happen. This specific group, it was a no-go with him. So who knows if they would have returned a while before this happened. But I'm glad it happened on the Triple H instead. Because even though, like Kayla, you were saying, I feel like it took away from the moment, like having that moment that nothing really happened, that just came out and that was it. But at the same time, just like I was like in tears. I had goosebumps.
It was unexpected.
As well.
No one thought that was gonna happen. Everybody kind of figured Bailey was coming, but like the other two, honestly. And when you talk about what Dakota was saying about it, I think it was like 2 or 3 days before the pay-per-view where Bailey was like, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?" Like that's crazy. Like thinking the turnaround time and the fact that, well, they put like a lot of faith in what Bailey was like. This is what I want to do. I want these people, like, please, like, let's, I don't know if she said please, but like, please bring them in. Like, I want to make this happen. And like, look, they've been pretty good. And it's been 4 months of it. Maybe. Oh, yeah. So it's been pretty good.
Yeah, and it's also interesting when you think about it, because when I think of Bailey, I think of the Bailey from NXT and her being that hugger. You never see her like a leader sort of person.
We would have never seen that.
Right? And just like to think about this, she's a leader now. She's like, she goes from being the girl that was left off in NXT compared to the other three, and to see her now being the leader and being that head person in this group, and you know, having these girls. Because another thing, when you think about the entrances, at the time when before Io came out, there was a rumor that her contract in NXT was going to expire like a month. So it's something that I would have never expected to see her in the main roster, thinking she's probably gone. She's probably going back to Japan, if anything.
Everybody thought she was going back.
Yeah, I mean, you would have taken her.
No.
Selfishly, I'm like, that would have been awesome.
I'm sad. Yeah. I would have personally loved to see her join up with Kairi, join the Neo Grim Reaper army in Stardom and wreak some havoc.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'll leave that to Ed for the variety wrestling realities and the what ifs of that end of it. But it's also thinking about, like we said, Dakota had gotten released. All she was doing was like streaming online, if anything, and she wasn't doing anything in wrestling. And I just thinking about it, it's another person that I would have never expected to return. Like when her music came up, I heard it kind of low at first, so I was like, no, this is not her. And it took me a moment to realize it was her, and it gave me more goosebumps when I noticed it was her. And I like how, even though they're all different, when they all stood next to each other, they all seem so well put together. I love seeing that visual. Like they went standing next to each other and like, yeah, we're here. Look at the crowd and look at this reaction we're getting. And just when you see them like kind of taking that in that moment, standing next to each other, I love that moment so much. I haven't been able to erase it from my mind. It was so beautifully done. I love that end of it. And like Kayla said, I wish I would have done a little bit more after that happened. But just like,
it was deflated.
Yeah, it was. But everything else before that, like the entrances and them coming out together and looking so uniform, even though they all look so different, they all have different backgrounds. I love that moment. I won't be able to forget it. But I love how incredible Bailey is. She looks so confident. And just, I can't forget about this moment as it is.
Well, you think about it, like just like what you said about them looking good together. It's I from my memory, I don't think any of them in any combination have been like either tagged together or been in some sort of group or worked together. So it was 3 kind of like random people like coming together, you know? And I just was like, they looked good together. Like they didn't look, oh, this is so like random, right? I guess you could have thought that, but they looked good. Like they looked like, okay, this is a team. Like they're here as a team, not just 3 random people that Bailey decided to hire yesterday.
And even if you think about it, we had like Dakota hasn't, even though she's been with a partner, I feel like she always betrays them in the end and doesn't last too long, to like the point that you never would have thought of her being in this group for like this. Because I think of like the way she betrayed Tegan. I would have never pictured that. Now.
Dakota just always turns them.
Yeah.
So does Bailey.
Yeah.
Bailey did too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I feel like I remember Dakota more, especially because of Tegan. So I see that one. So to see
Wasn't
that
she with
now,
Raquel too for a bit?
yeah.
And then she got let go, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that why they broke up, or did they have a falling out? I can't remember now.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit.
I wouldn't know.
I honestly can't remember.
Yeah.
I just go by what I see on Twitter and what Astrid sends me.
Exactly.
So let's go with this one. For me, this is one that, seeing what they were like in NXT, I would have never pictured who they are now. But it's none other than the man Becky Lynch. Like,
who's that?
Who's that? That's not it.
God, she didn't keep that for very long. Like maybe a few shows, if that. Like, and then it was gone.
You know, bless her though. She took this gimmick and just ran with it like she was asked to. Because, like, look at the smile on her face. It might be really forced, but she's doing her best to enjoy that moment. And
this is her debut, I think.
Yeah. Like she looked like this for a few times. I remember seeing her. And the dancing, I remember being like, you know, the first time I saw it, I remember laughing at it. But after a time or two of seeing what it was that she was actually capable of doing wrestling wise, it became less laughable, because you understand that she might be sitting here making a joke of herself, kind of dancing, but she's going to kick the crap out of you when she's done dancing. And that's something that people didn't always remember once that bell rang.
Yeah, she's back in NXT. Like she was a vet already with wrestling, not with NXT, of course, but just in wrestling in general. And when I think the first moment where I was like, holy crap, was her versus Sasha on NXT.
Yeah.
And I cannot remember the pay-per-view, so Astrid probably will have to correct me here. But that was a banger. Like, that was so good. Like, yeah.
She was still in this gimmick for that, right?
No, she was I think the last kicker now.
Yeah.
At that point. Because like she honestly didn't keep this gimmick for very long.
No.
And they didn't have as many shows, I think, for NXT back then. So she may have kept it for a few months, but only for a few shows. But I don't remember her having it very long, because then she started transitioning and then became the last kicker, because she was that when they had their 4-way. Correct, Astrid?
Yeah, I kept thinking.
And then she had her match with Sasha, because Sasha was champ in NXT, and that was so good. Psychology, that was a good match.
Yeah. And this is another one for me that when I remember seeing this, I can't unsee in my mind her dancing. And it's like, I saw her this way and I was like, how long is she going to last doing this? How long until they repackage her? That was my thoughts all along when I first saw her. I was like, I want to see her wrestle, but at the same time, this like the presentation itself was not it for me. The wrestling was, but not the way her character was looking.
That's fair.
And just like you said, it just and the one that really I remember watching and that I enjoyed, I'm hoping it happens in the main roster sometime soon, was that fatal 4-way between them. The only time they ever faced each other, and that was in NXT. And it just reminds me how much, you know, she had done in just that time in there. Imagine.
It's crazy. Like, I can't believe they haven't done it again. Honestly, like, I don't know when they're gonna do it, because honestly, but like they have to before one of them retires. They have to. Like, I don't know who's gonna retire first, but they need to do it, because they're all still like in their physical primes. And I don't know what Charlotte's doing, if I'm completely honest, but like the other 3 at least are like still wrestling and in the ring and like active in that sense. I'm sure Charlotte is too, but we just don't see it on social media or whatever. But their fatal 4-way was, I mean, they didn't even get that much time because it was NXT. No one thought they'd put on that good of a match.
No, wasn't even a takeover.
No, it was like 10 minutes, not even. It was like, no, it was a takeover because Sasha won. Wasn't it?
Oh, so it may have been like a smaller end takeover. It wasn't one of the big ones they had. I think it was because I remember like the like the presentation wasn't as big as the other ones later.
No, they didn't.
They didn't have a lot of time either. So it was, I think, one of
Mm-mm.
the first ones. Probably why it was kind of not the
Yeah,
same.
it was still like at the Performance Center. I
Yeah.
don't think they started having them big until Brooklyn,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think it was.
Well, I mean, to
I don't
answer
even
your
know.
question, though, Kayla, I'm fairly certain that the powers that be now, the ones that
Gonna
have
make it
taken
happen.
over control, will
Like-
probably have a lot easier of and better of a time
Mhm.
setting up a match like that.
Mhm. Well, the man
Gosh,
that
that
made it
is not my
happen, the
favorite
first.
picture of her.
When was this? Was Mania, wasn't it?
Yeah, the very ziggy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
look
I don't
at
know
those
about
shoulders
that.
and
No, this
arms,
was for
man.
the SummerSlam when Bailey returned. This is when she was facing off
Right.
against Bianca. So that's why I wanted to point that out. It's the same time that the Bailey picture just happened. That it's one of the most recent appearances we have for Becky after, because she got injured after this during this match. So she's been out. I think she probably did a promo the week after, but she's been out ever since. But I just to think of, like, I feel like even to this day, today I believe is the anniversary. I think either second or third anniversary of when the man was really born to
I think
record
it's
this
been a few
episode.
years for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
So this is the
Yeah.
anniversary though. And like
Mhm.
today of the recording, November 12th. So this will be that are
Oh.
watching it later. So just
Well, happy
incredible.
Becky.
Right.
Yeah. So just
You're
incredible
right.
to think.
Yeah. Wow.
This is it. It's just like this is like just like Bailey. I love how confident she looks in this picture as well. And like I feel like just like Sasha, you can tell like she just found herself in her character and her ability to. And like she knows what she can do, and she's not stopping herself either. She's not restraining herself, and it's just incredible to see. Like this is a girl that was dancing on her debut in NXT. And didn't even win the NXT Women's Championship. It was another thing that I keep thinking about. She's the only
That's
one that hasn't
insane.
won it out of the
Yeah.
four. So when I saw her in NXT, I kept thinking, "Oh, she's doomed. She didn't win the NXT Women's Championship like the other three did. Look at her now." And yeah,
But she
I
was like
wrong.
more than main roster ready when she
Yeah.
came up. Like she was like, unless they wanted to keep her there for a certain reason, she was more than ready. Like she already had that look and the wrestling, the attitude, the character, everything. There was no reason for her to stay, whereas Bailey really did need to find that edge, like a little bit more of an edge before she came up, even though she was still loved, but she needed that edge. But this icon.
I just want to point out I'm a little jealous of this woman's genetics, because in her face does not look any different in this picture than it did in the other one. She literally looks like she just got bigger arms, but the face is exactly the same, just ageless. I love it.
Yeah, and do you think this is her after being a mom as well? Out of the four,
true.
so
That is
look
true.
how
That's
incredible
why
she
her
looks.
shoulders are so jacked.
Yeah, that explains it.
She
But-
just that's all I have to say. Like she's just so entertaining. Like when she found her edge, like when she was always like, I always loved her. I loved the matches she put on. But when she found that extra edge, because I think she probably really did feel that disrespect around that time. Like she probably really did sorry, English again. She really did feel that disrespect. Because like if I was her, I probably would have felt that too. And then when all that stuff with Survivor Series happened, obviously that iconic picture of her at the top of the stairs, like iconic. When she got that edge, she hasn't looked back. Like I know a lot of people, like usually when people get that push and they become like the top of the mountain, fans start turning, and fans did start turning on her, don't get me wrong. But she, like, I don't know, she still stayed like really entertaining. So I mean, I think people still love her, and when she eventually does come back, I mean, I don't see her coming back other than to face Bailey at this moment. Like she's gonna come and face Bailey, because have they even had a feud? I don't think they have.
I don't think so.
I
I wouldn't be the
remember-
one to ask about it though, but I don't recall seeing anything about it.
They've had matches, but not
Yeah.
nothing on a pay-per-view.
Nothing major.
I think.
Nothing that extended a few months.
Yeah, nothing that's like, oh my god, like Becky and Bailey, they're wrestling.
I think that you're absolutely right. I think Becky has kind of stayed in that mainstream kind of lane, the hammer lane, if you will, because she has that thing that you've been mentioning, and that's that boundless in-ring psychology. She knows how to control everything happening in the ring, but she also has that kind of crazy ability that the last person we still need to talk about has, which is that ability to control the crowd. And Becky knows exactly what to say and how to say it to get the reaction and the pop that she wants at any time out of the crowd. And that's mainly why I have never turned on her, because I know she can pull that out on me whenever she wants.
Yeah, that edge that she has. And I think Sasha had it. Honestly, out of the four, I think she had it first. And then I think Becky found it when she became the man. And then Bailey finally found it when she turned heel. And then she's had it ever since. Like Bailey always had that extra fire, but not that edge. And she has, like, when she turned heel and then eventually turned on Sasha, she got that extra little oomph, where when she had a promo, you're like, oh, ouch, Bailey, like, ouch, you know, like that hurt. And I'll be honest, like, does Charlotte have it?
Oof. Yeah.
I'm sorry, like, she still has to find it. Like, she's had it in, like, passing glimpses. And don't get me wrong, like, I don't mind her matches. Like, I do enjoy it. And, like, some of the stuff she's put on, especially with, like, the other Four Horsewomen and then Asuka eventually. But, like, yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, another one thing that I wanted to point out before moving on to Charlotte as well is just I feel like with Becky, I feel like whether she's a heel or face, she embraces the crowd, which is what I love about her too. And another thing that I have learned to love about her as well is when she does her promos, again, heel or face, she puts over her opponent in such a way that I feel like none of the girls do. And I love when she does that, because even as a heel, she kind of gives her props in some way in her promo, but then she switches it off to like going back to what her thing is and her main point at the end. But I feel like when she talks, she has people's attention, which I love that about her. People like pay attention to what she says and what she does. And I feel like her becoming the man, I feel like it allowed her to like open up in a way that she didn't before. And I'm glad she did, because she's been able to like put out incredible performances, because ever since she returned from giving birth, I feel like she's been incredible. Heel or face, she keeps my attention, no matter what she does. And even though I did complain about the fact that her and Bianca's feud and the way that she came in and defeated Bianca in just a couple seconds, I was not happy about that. But I was happy about the way like the story came full circle later on. Like overall, that whole thing, I love that, because I love how they continued it even a year later to just go. And they kind of give you that little seed of doubt when they first started the match, and like, is it gonna last a couple seconds like it did last year? And you're like, oh no, don't do this to me again, kind of situation. And they kept you like at the palm of your hand with like keeping that thought in your mind as the match kept going on, and you're like, is it ending now in 5 minutes? Is it 10? How long is she gonna last this time around? And I feel like when it comes to Becky, she has grown so much for me. When I first saw her, I was like, yeah, I don't like this girl. Versus like now, I love her and everything she does. It just she's one of those I cannot betray what she does. Even as a heel, I'm like, yes, give me more. You're doing incredible. Keep going, keep going. But to go to the last one, well, let's just go first. She's Charlotte, not Charlotte Flair at the moment. Because one thing, when she debuted, they told her she had to get away from her father's shadow. So she's more than anything trying to not look like Ric Flair in any shape, way, or form. Her gear, her gimmick, her persona, everything. So just incredible to think like. And then I think at the same time, I don't blame her for trying to get away from his shadow, because in a way, you're thinking you have to live up to your dad's legacy that's like up here already, which is something tough and like some weight on your shoulders for you to begin your wrestling career. But at the same time, I feel like at this point, she's not Ric Flair's daughter. It's like she's, Rick's daughter, because I feel she's doing incredible, that she deserves to have her flowers for what she's done, to the point of like, I feel like her career is even better than her dad's at this point, because she's done such a cool performance. And how many championships she's had already so far? Is it what, 13, 14 at this point? So close, right, right there. But like, to go back, like Mel, when you see her, like, what do you think when you see this gear and this person you see in front of you here?
I'm not gonna lie, this is exactly how I remembered first starting seeing Charlotte Flair, before she went completely aftermarket and started making additions. Wow, English. Modifications, if you will. I've always been a fan of Charlotte Flair from the time I saw her like this. When I first saw her, I was like, oh, great. Another second generation superstar. Here we go, or whatever. But she has consistently put on incredible matches. And what one of my favorite things about her is yes, she's Ric Flair's daughter. She has that notoriety, as you mentioned, but she wrestles so good. And she's one of those people who I look at when she gets into the ring, she is working just as hard to make herself look good as she is to make her opponent look good if they need that help. I say that because I'm thinking about it. Was it her and Trish Stratus that kind of did that kind of almost a legends kind of match? I love Trish Stratus, Canadian superhero to me.
Yep.
And in her era, she was absolutely the top of that mountain. But the era is not that era anymore. And I do feel that she was, when I heard the match announced, I was concerned she was going to struggle. But when I heard that it was with Charlotte Flair, I knew it was going to be a great match because Charlotte was going to make Trish have that fire and make it look like she has that fire if she doesn't or if she does. And I personally felt that the match turned out incredible. But I do feel in large part it was because Charlotte Flair did kind of help carry that along and get to that point. Charlotte Flair is also like Becky to me. When she wants the crowd to react a certain way, she knows exactly what to say to make you just boo the heck out of her. She knows exactly what to say to make you cheer. She knows exactly what to say to get a reaction. A friend of ours, Cody, I'm sure he has done everything he can to not give this woman anything. He hates her. But man, does she know how to make him pop? Does she know how to make him angry? And maybe that's why he's a little angry at her, because she knows exactly how to work him a little bit. I don't know. But like, what do you guys think of Charlotte when you see this picture?
I know, Kayla, we haven't heard from you.
I'll be completely honest. I'm not a huge fan.
Hey, fair enough.
I can appreciate, like, she is very good in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think that she's the best on the mic? No. Do I think that she's very good at putting people over? Only select people. I'll be honest. Like, I'll be straight up honest. I think that she has good matches with good wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you put her in there with the people we've been talking about, and then, like I said, Asuka, I think she has, like, good matches because she has, like, this, right? Like, she has somebody that's good. But if she's up here, right, and then she wrestles somebody that's down here, the match is going to be down here.
Mm.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yes, I know examples.
Yeah, so it's just, I think that she I think that she did really good with Ronda. Like, I loved the stuff she did with Ronda because I feel like Ronda maybe got under her skin a little. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like same thing with Becky, like Ronda got under her skin where she's like, this bitch came in here, like, but I feel like she did put good, I feel like she had that edge with Ronda. She has that edge with Becky. She has that edge with Sasha. I don't know if we've seen it, the edge with other people per se, like, not to that point. Like, she's had that edge with Bayley, but I don't think we've seen her per se with it really. So I think that she's very good, and like when she comes back, I will be excited. Like, don't get me wrong, I'll be like, okay, what is she gonna do? Like, who's she gonna face? Like, she'll probably be in the main event, so who's she gonna face? Is she gonna win championship number 24? Like, I don't know, but don't get me wrong, like, she's always like gonna put on a good match. We've seen some bad ones, but like but that's because I think maybe I still consider her like inexperienced compared to the other three, and especially Asuka, like, because we keep talking about Asuka. She's always been in that circle, like she's always been next to them.
Unofficial fifth.
Yeah, the unofficial fifth. She's always been putting on really good matches at the same time that the four have. When it comes to Charlotte, like I said, that when she has that edge, I'll watch. Like, I'm like, okay, good, I'll watch this match. Like her and Becky, Last Woman Standing. I think it was right. It was so good. Evolution, so good. The triple threat at Mania, not the one with Ronda, the one with Sasha, their first one at 32. 32 was so good. She's just been there, you know, like when they've had good matches and you're like, okay, Charlotte's in that match, it's such a good match. Is she the person my eye is always drawn to? No, but that's my bias coming out. I will still always be like, okay, if we need to have like a good match that people are going to pay attention to, okay, put Charlotte in. It's the same thing like with Becky and Sasha, and Bayley's up there now finally with her heel turn. The one thing that I like really want to see is that 4-way that I think Astrid just brought up too. And would we have ever gotten to this point if it wasn't for Charlotte? No, probably not. Like they may have gotten there, but at the beginning, like I think because of her name, it helped. Because all of a sudden Rick was showing up on NXT. Natalya was coming to NXT because of that match they had. I think for the NXT Women's Championship. So it's like stuff like that. Like I think it would have really helped. Would they have gotten there eventually? I think so. Because when you talk about NXT, do you talk about Charlotte? You talk about Bayley a lot of the time, right? Bayley and Asuka. I love her though. Like I love all 4 of them. I'll still say I love Charlotte, even if she's my least favorite. Like whatever. But we still look at that. Like that look right there. Like screams, I'm important. I'm rich. I'm in the main event. Right? Like you look at her and you think main event.
Yeah.
And now that you look at the other 3, when you look at them and their looks now, they also have that. Whereas Charlotte, I feel like, has had that for a while. And that's the flowers I'll give her, is that she's always had that, like, I'm better than you look by just looking at her. She doesn't even have to open her mouth. Like, look at her face. She's like, I'm the main event. Anyways, I'm done talking. Sorry. Go ahead. I'm trying to like give my honest opinion about her, but then also
this is what we're here for, honest opinions. It doesn't matter good or bad. But just for her though, I feel like compared to the other girls, I feel like she's always played the same character. So you never really see a change in her, which is the part that I would say kind of bothers me, because I feel like Charlotte could do a little more. She could do more than what she's doing. And she's always like, her character's always like, oh, I have a robe, I'm better than you, and obviously you know that too, and I'm Ric Flair's daughter and I'm doing more than Ric Flair has done. So it's just at a point that I'm like, I want something different for her. And even whether she's a heel or a face, she kind of still gives you the same vibe, so it doesn't really change. And when it comes to the promos, I feel like she's okay because she shows confidence when she's talking. But at the same time, I'm like, her promos are like boring in a way, because I feel like she doesn't get to the point like she should be, like Becky does. And she doesn't really put people over while she's doing that as well. And I feel like it's one of those things like, here, you don't know where you're going to leave. So it's better for you to take that moment and put somebody over that's going to be here probably as the next generation when you're gone. So I feel like that's something very important to do when it comes to the women, especially. I just like, I feel it's always the same thing. And I feel like she's always involved in the title picture. She's just like, I want something where she's not involved in the title picture, and it's important anyway. Because I feel like you had matches with like Sasha and Bayley, and you can see them with the championship, without the championship. It's so important. Like even right now, Bayley has been losing, but at the same time, she has your attention when she has those matches with Bianca.
You're 100%
even though she's
right.
losing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when did you not see Charlotte in the title picture? It's super rare. Like I feel like I can barely find on top of my mind the moments that she's had without the championship. And it's just like, for example, for me at least, they had an incredible match. Yes, that's true. But I would have picked Charlotte to end the streak. I feel like it was too soon. I feel like I would have tried to have it a little bit more over and have somebody that really needed that boost to end that streak for Asuka, for example. It's like Charlotte didn't need that to add to her career. She already had a lot going on. So I feel like you could have picked somebody that didn't have a lot going on for them and give them like, look, you're basically going to get confidence in your character because you beat Asuka for WrestleMania. That's already huge. And I feel like Charlotte wasn't the person to really do that. It's just like, and not only that, but I was there for that one, seeing that ending. I was just, everybody in the audience were like, wait, did she win? Did she not win? Like we were like confused with how the ending was portrayed as well. So it didn't really help to like the way I saw it in person. But it's like, I love Charlotte. I know she's one of those people like you could easily rely on her to give you a good performance. But at the same time, just I want something different for her. I wish she was kind of like Becky in a way, because even though Becky could be a face or heel, and the character's kind of similar, but she always tweaks it in a way that makes it different for you. So it looks like the man is different from the last kicker, who's different from those she is now. And she keeps your attention. And it's like, I'm just tired of Charlotte doing the same person all over again at this point. I want something different from her.
You know what, guys? I would love to see her not in WWE. He's going to throw that out there. I'd like to see her go somewhere else to prove to everyone that she can do it somewhere else. I
don't
would,
know if she would
my
do that.
dream match right now, after what I have seen with Stardom, what I have seen here in North America, my dream match right now is Charlotte versus Jazzy Gabbard. I would love to see the two of those girls tangle up. That'd be a battle of the Amazons to me. I would love to see Charlotte get in the ring with Taya Valkyrie in a AAA ring. I would love to see Charlotte Flair maybe try to have Who's the Bigger Bitch on NWA, maybe face off with Camille, and see which one of the resting bitch faces here can get the power over the other one. Selfishly, I want to take her out of there. I hope when she does decide to come back that maybe her and El Idolo maybe take a little, round the world trip and maybe start, wrestling some independents in maybe Rev Pro again, Impact, NWA, AAA. I'd like to see them start to get out there, do a little bit of a difference. What do you guys think?
I really love the idea of her and Camille, though.
Yeah. I see Charlotte as a just straight up North American wrestler. Like, I just see her as a North American style. Like, sorry to be specific, because Mexico's North America, but Canada and the States. Like, I don't know if she could keep up with Japan, because we've seen her with like some Japanese wrestlers. If we compare the other three, the other three hands down. But could Charlotte? Maybe that's a good thing to prove. Hey, I could keep up with other styles. But as of right now, she kind of sometimes struggles to keep up with the style she's good at. So before we move, Astrid, what you brought up about the streak with Asuka, you make like a really good point, because who remembers that?
Yeah.
I forgot about it until you just brought it up
later.
Good with ending their streaks in general, though.
Like, you're totally right, because what did that do? It just kind of made everyone be like, we kind of expected that. And it's like a really good point. And I think one of the worst things, in addition, that they did was force her into the Becky and Ronda match.
Yeah.
In the end, like, the match was like what it is. I think, of course, the plan was to have Ronda and Charlotte. It didn't work out, but sometimes that's the way it works. And I think forcing her into that, like, was one of the worst things they could have done. Because in the end, no one wanted to see.
Though.
Yeah. Like, if they would have had like different people running it at that point, I don't think Charlotte would have been in that match. Like, I don't think so. Because in the end, controversial ending or not, like, I know the ending was an apparent botch. Who knows?
Yeah.
But the whole thing, like, everybody, that's that fire, the edge that I was talking about with Becky, like, she got that, and no one wanted Charlotte in there. Everybody's like, oh, they're just pushing her in there. In the end, her star factor probably just put a little bit more eyes on it, but the poor girl, like, her booking, they don't help her. You know what I mean? Like, they need to help her. Like, she could be a crowd favorite, and I know that a lot of people do love her, but she could be a huge favorite, but they're not doing her any favors.
Yeah.
Like, help the girl out and don't make people be like, oh my god, when she comes out, Yeah. And when she does return, eventually, the girl needs a total, like, revamp. Like, she needs different gear, like a different style, okay? Not a different color, different style. Like, put her in pants or something different, where people are like, wow, she looks different. This is different. Grab our attention, right? Like, maybe dye your hair, like, something. Right? Like, she needs that. And I think because we've seen her as, honestly, her look hasn't changed a whole heck of a lot since NXT, and it's been 8 years or whatever. She needs that revamp, because then the eyes will be on her, and if she finds her edge, I think the best way to give her that edge is to put her with the people that bring the edge out of her.
Interesting.
Give them that fatal 4-way. Give them that fatal 4-way, and I think the edge will come out. Especially when it comes to, like, I don't know how they would do it, but they need to talk about who's the best.
Mhm.
They need to talk about who's the best, who's the whatever. And at the end of the day, I think Bailey should come out of that match winning. Because she was the one that was left behind to begin with.
Yeah.
She's the one that should win.
And that's something that she could definitely work into her angle and promos in that kind of feud, how everyone just kind of left her behind and abandoned her. I mean, WWE, creative, get on it. We're giving you the ideas for free.
Yeah, those are free.
Satisfy us.
I'm free. I'll book the whole thing.
Yeah.
But she has
help us
to.
help you help everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, let me help you. I'll even do it for a small fee.
But yeah, it's just, if you think about it this way, it's just like, I feel like they insert her in angles she shouldn't be in. Like when she came out and they added her just to the match and for, like you said, for the 3-way. Yeah, at that moment when you hear the music, you're like, oh no. It's just like, I feel like the angle and the storyline was great with just Becky and Ronda. And just to the point, like now I feel when she comes back, it's probably going to end up being Charlotte and Ronda. And there she goes back to the title picture. And I feel like that's why they have Ronda with the championship, kind of holding off until Charlotte returns. That's how I feel right now. And even like for me, at least, I know that Becky does have unfinished business with Bailey and Damage Control as a whole. But I'd love to see her go to SmackDown and kind of go to Ronda. It's like, why are you running away from me, Ronnie? You keep running away from me, kind of thing. And have her do that one-on-one match with Ronda that we all wanted them to do. Oh yeah, that was the way that she called her. It's like, I will not forget that. It's like,
that was the greatest moment because you could tell that Ronda was a little pissed at that nickname. Like you could tell, she was like, "How dare you?"
I can imagine.
So I will run the angle to be like, don't run away from me, Ronnie. I'll find you somehow, kind of thing. And just bring Becky and have Ronda have that one-on-one match they should have done to begin with, and not have Charlotte involved. But I feel like right now she's still in the SmackDown intro. I don't know if maybe they're waiting for the draft to happen for her to return, so that way they give her like the whole new brand. Because we haven't really seen like her and Becky. I mean, not her and Bianca in that type of way. Maybe that's what would happen. But I feel like right now, if they do keep her on SmackDown, it's gonna be her and Ronda. And I'm at a point that if you look at Raw compared to SmackDown, I feel like everything's revolving around Ronda and everybody's just there. They don't know what to do with the girls. Versus Raw, you have with Damage Control, but there's little mini storylines going on at the same time, which I wish SmackDown would do. And I feel like at the same time, when you think about the star power they have on Raw, Charlotte is missing from that star power here on SmackDown right now, and they do need her back. But I'm afraid they'll add her to everything with Ronda, and I just like it'll end up Charlotte winning the championship again. So do I want to see that again when it's just going to stay the same with her character? Not really. So that's why I'm not excited for it, but I'm excited for her to return at the same time.
I think that it's so funny that you bring that up because honestly, I forgot who was SmackDown Women's Champion. Until like a week ago, I was sitting there because like I only watch sporadically, and to be completely honest, I only watch some things with SmackDown, and then I will watch some things with Raw, like Damage Control and stuff. But I completely forgot who was champion one day. I was sitting there, I was like, who is SmackDown Women's Champion? Like, what is happening? And that like says a lot right there. Like, obviously I'm gonna sit down every Monday and watch Raw and watch every pay-per-view. Like, I'll watch if something's like really whatever, and I'll watch the replay, but I'm not gonna make sure that I take this time to be there. And it's just, it needs to really pique my interest, and what they're doing on SmackDown's not doing it. In terms of Becky returning, of course, like I'd like her to get her edge with Ronda there, but I really, really would be intrigued to see her come back and be like, Bailey, I have a bone to pick with you. And just let them like go at it. Not like, oh, Becky's the face, Bailey's the heel. Like, I want them both to basically be organically themselves and be that like edgy heel and just like beat the crap out of each other, but then also like talk shit to each other. You know, like Becky the man, like throwing all these insults, Bailey throwing all these insults, and then wrestle.
Yeah.
There's their feud, and it would be funny. Like, I feel like it would be entertaining. Maybe that's just me.
With what we have now at the WWE, we have more likelihood of actually obtaining that. than we like now than we did 2, 3, even 5, 10 years ago.
Oh yeah. Well, did they announce who else is going to be in the pay-per-view? Yeah, War Games. Did they announce yet, or is there still those empty?
Yeah,
fill in the gap.
Yeah, okay. For the good guys side is 2 spots, and then for the heels there's one spot left. So a lot of people they're thinking Naomi and Sasha just because they had Damage Control and the women's tag team championships on the other side.
Yeah,
so that could be it. But then who's going to join the heel side to be that one person that's left?
Charlotte.
That's a lot of returns
in one night, though. So. That's a lot of people returning in one night, though. So
yeah, and I feel like that would probably like almost overwhelm the crowd in that respect, having how many people suddenly, oh, we're back. It's like, gosh, the first one took all the energy out of me. You expect me to do this 2 more times? It would be smarter for them to split off debuts, because like, as someone who has recently gone to like an independent show and had a sudden surprise come up, is like, what? Hold on, we were still dealing with that. Like we
it doesn't give you enough time to digest.
Yeah, sure. We're fans. You got to remember we're a little slow up here some days, and especially when you're just throwing a lot of stuff at us. One thing at a time is appropriate. Keep it simple for the Mel Ball.
I think everybody expects it to be Naomi and Sasha, and that's why I don't think they're coming back. Like, if they're coming back, I think it's going to be, I don't know. I don't know.
If I'm not mistaken, and Ed will correct me on this later when he watches it. He told me Survivor Series is in Boston, so I think being in Boston, it's also a hint of like that Sasha crowd. It will be even better with their reaction in her hometown, Boston. So just that's another point of like, ooh, that's interesting timing. So I don't know. Plus her training, like we were talking off air, and she was training with Juventud Guerrera. I think a couple of days ago, if I'm not mistaken, at the point of this recording. So just like I feel like whenever, like Kayla and I were saying, whenever she has like a big match coming up, you see her showing up that she's training somewhere else. So I don't know. That's how I felt when I saw that, but I don't want to get my hopes up either.
We'll really know if she ends up in Brooklyn right before the Boston show. Then we'll for sure know.
Oh yeah,
we're like, she's gonna be there. If not, she's just gonna pull a fast one on us. But
although you know, how many times did these wrestlers before the hostile takeover, if you will, at WWE, how many of these wrestlers who are still with WWE were teasing other promotional shows? Oh, I'm gonna be in Dallas this weekend. I'm gonna be in Chicago this weekend. Like Johnny Gargano had me just on a hook, just dragging me along for a long while there. You know, I actually thought that he was going to show up at Forbidden Door. Imagine my disappointment. Don't disappoint us like that.
I feel like if people think she's going to show up, she's going to just disappoint.
Yeah, and that's...
And honestly, I'll be completely honest, I don't want her to return at that pay-per-view.
Eh?
I want it to be closer to Mania. I want it to be like, see, I don't know what they're gonna do with that, but it has to eventually be like, is it gonna be, is it gonna be them turning on Bayley, like Damage Control? Is it gonna be Bianca, Naomi, Sasha versus Damage Control? Is it gonna be Becky, Naomi, Sasha versus Damage Control? Mania? I don't know. Or maybe Royal Rumble, who knows? But
get Tamina back in there, Team Bad again.
Yeah, where is she? She's just kind of always floating around being team.
She's Karen.
Yeah, she's the best, honestly, though. I like her. Like, I have a soft spot for Tamina.
She's on my list.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, who wins the Rumble? There's no clear-cut winner.
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, if it was just Sasha or Naomi that walked out alone, we probably would have been like, oh, it's one of them. But they walked out together, which makes you think they're coming back together. Unless like one of them just decides to return randomly, who knows? But then I feel like it just kind of doesn't really make sense because they left together.
Yeah.
Who are they gonna fight?
It's just I have a visual of I don't know where, but I just have a visual of them returning and just going in front of Dakota and Io just with the championship kind of raised up in the air, like we're the real champions. And they're like, no, we're the real champions. And that kind of situation,
Mm.
because based on the storyline, Naomi and Sasha did live together. They can come back separately, but it wouldn't make sense on screen because they were the last ones to the championships. So I feel like it feels nice for them to come back and say like we're the real champions because we had this whole time. Versus the girls can say, yeah, when you were gone, we were carrying the tag team division kind of thing, and just show like we're the new crop of girls coming in now
Yeah.
taking over the tag division. And not only that, but when I think of Damage Control, I think of Toxic Attraction is one group in NXT that's got my attention,
Ah,
and they could be called up pretty soon because I don't feel like they have a lot going on in NXT left. So what if they go and face them too?
that would be really fun. Honestly, that would be
Possibilities.
fun. I would like to
As
see
long as
it.
they don't bring in that intern word.
Yeah. Well, WWE doesn't really do
Oh,
that
yeah.
compared to AEW, but I feel like they could just say, "Oh, we're gonna put both championships on the line, like both sets, and have like an undisputed women's tag team champions." And I feel like it just kind of will make them feel more important when they just say, "We're the undisputed tag team champions," because I feel like it's something that we've been wanting for the women's tag division, just to have the like oomph somehow and have that momentum going on. And I feel like that will bring it a lot more eyes and focus, especially being out of Sasha and Naomi returning.
And I haven't felt that oomph in a long time.
Yeah.
Like the people that bring that oomph are not here right now, or they're not working together, i.e. Bailey, Sasha.
Yeah.
Like they really made everything surrounding that important. Like even the people they faced, they made look really good. And honestly, like when we talk about matches and we talk about people that were part of, like, wow, you're amazing, and you just so happen to be a woman in wrestling, was I cannot remember their tag team name, but Kairi and Asuka, when they were like a tag team and they were going at it with Bailey and Sasha, wow,
Yeah, like
chemistry, like chemistry, right? Pardon me?
I don't remember what their name was either, though. I remember it being
Something
something
Pirates?
fun.
Was it? Oh no, that was Sky Pirates with Io.
Yeah, I was to say the Kabuki Warriors, was it? I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Kabuki Warriors.
yeah. That's it. Like, just fire. Like, I loved it. So I think selfishly, I just really want Bailey and Sasha to be a team again because they always do great things and it's entertaining. And there's other people to go against right now. Like, there's new people coming back, old people coming back, whatever. I just think there's just so many possibilities. And the only way to get what our end goal is that fatal 4-way. They need to work together eventually because there needs to be some sort of I'm better than you. There's only 2 women's championships. So who knows? They don't even really honestly need to be in the picture. It could just be we're the 4 horsemen. We all hate each other right now because I'm the best, which I think they could just do. There doesn't need to be a title. Yeah, there doesn't need to be a title because let's be honest, Bailey, when she ends up winning that match, does she need the title to prove that she's the best? No, because everybody knows that the 4 best wrestlers in reality are in that match. That everybody, you're like, wow, they're really good. I mean, there's other amazing wrestlers, but everybody just knows those are like the 4, right?
The 4.
And poor Bianca, I don't know what she's going to do. I mean, she's kind of blowing through almost all the 4 horsewomen at this point. So I don't know who she's going to face next, but maybe Ronda.
Maybe that unofficial 5th.
Oh,
have they wrestled?
The unofficial 5th horseman in Asuka, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't feel like
have they had a match? Like
I don't think that for the championship though, because I remember like if you think about it, this with Bianca's mostly been focused on Becky and like people here and there, but her and Asuka have always been kind of like, I don't want to say partners, but she's always been that person that comes out whenever Bianca needs assistance, and so it's Alexa. So that you really haven't seen them like go for the championship like that. But I could be mistaken. I have a terrible memory, people. I'm sorry.
I forget names and dates. I just remember I'm like that one year that they did this, like that year.
I think we all 3 of us watch enough wrestling on a weekly basis that we can probably barely recall the last match we actually watched. I know I just watched 15 matches in 3 days. I'm exhausted.
Well, we always have those staples. Like, I don't know if you guys have this too, but sometimes you're like, I just want to watch wrestling. Oh, I think I'm going to watch Hell in a Cell from 2021. Or
my boyfriend does that.
Yeah, like I just like I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna watch this. Do I need some feels? You always pick like the matches that you really like, and coincidentally, a lot of mine include the Four Horsewomen because I'm a sucker for them. But I picked the ones that I'm like, hey, the story was really good, because I'm like, oh my god, that reversal, like, oh, that story, like Sasha and Becky in Hell in a Cell, like, come on, like so good. Right? Like they just did things you never seen before. And that one is one that I go back to. Elimination Chamber for the tag titles. Just for like the feeling. And I think all the girls in that match did amazing. So like you go back and I'm like, oh, my heart is so happy, right? Like
I feel like that Elimination Chamber was the same night that Caristico did the little monkey bars across the top of the...
It could be
the same one? I feel that was the same night. Good moment, anyway.
Yeah, sure. Sure. My memory.
He's usually around where Sasha is. Like when Sasha's on a show, he's usually on a show, and that was for me one of his highlights of his careers. So that's why I'm kind of like, I feel like that was the same night. That would have been the same night he did that little backflip off the ceiling thing and hoped that everyone underneath him caught him.
Oh. Isn't that the case for most high flyers anyways? Like, let's just hope people decide to catch me this time.
I mean, I think you'll know as a worker, you know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's certain things you're just like, oh, I'm just not gonna do this match because I don't think they're gonna catch me.
Yeah,
like nah, maybe not. There's only like a few times where I'm like, yeah,
that hurt you though, right?
Pardon me?
Then it's always like the stupidest little things that you end up hurting you instead of something major like that.
Well, it's usually you yourself hurting yourself from a decision that you have made. I mean, there's been a few times where it's another person who just was a little careless. But I mean, it is what it is. Like, they're not around, so accidents happen. But at the same time, like it's like back in the argument with Nia Jax. Like if it's happened like a lot with more than like one wrestler,
there's a consistency there.
Yeah, like there's a common denominator, and accidents happen. But if they're happening like a lot, and you look at it, and you're like, oh, it doesn't look like an accident.
Yeah, if it's the same accident happening multiple times to different people, it's maybe not an accident. It's maybe
there's a common denominator there.
Yeah. And there's like sometimes you just have to, like, I don't know if they're allowed to say no, I don't want matches like with people, but I know like you can be a little bit more picky on the independent scene. And of course there's like some times where I've been like, maybe not. But even before, like, yeah, anyways, the Nia Jax thing too,
discretion.
Like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, hey, maybe I'll do it. Like, I'll wrestle every match once. But if you've ended up with like an injury, it like really messes with your head. Especially if you know it's like, that wasn't my fault. Like, you may have done that on purpose, or I don't know. Especially head injuries. Like, head injuries are the worst. And they're like, that's like long lasting damage. It's not just like, wow, you dropped me weird and like twisted my ankle. It's like, wow. Or like you broke your nose, right? Like, it's not fun.
Hello. I know a lot of workers who have broken their nose and never gotten that nose fixed.
No, never. And like, or like chipped teeth, like Parrish, I know, has had some incidents or whatever. So I've had one as well, but it was a close call. So I didn't have to go to the dentist, but it's, anyways, go back to the Four Horsewomen.
But I have done like a mini camp out here, and I have struggled with like injuries I've had before being aggravated by just taking bumps or doing things to other people. So it's even older injuries can still be, aggravated and bothered when you're doing that. Like even during during that camp, I actually took a bump funny, landed on my shoulder, dislocated my shoulder,
Yeah.
rolled out of the ring, popped it back in, was like, yeah, no, we're good. Probably
Yeah.
should have told the trainer that.
Just things that you like try, as funny as it sounds, well, now that you have been in the ring, trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that move again. And like I've played sports like literally my entire life. So injuries from soccer, like I played soccer for 19 years. And then I literally stopped the same day I started wrestling. I decided to retire from soccer. I realized, okay, I can't throw like the Asuka type kicks. You know, like I can't do that. I did it in one match, and the next day I actually like couldn't walk. So you like realize, okay, I should probably not do that. I know some people don't listen to their body and they do it anyways, but I am, when you really can't walk the next day or for a few days,
I feel that. I feel that, and very relatable. I do recreational pole dancing as a means to keep in shape also, but the
That's
same
tough.
thing.
Oof.
Just doing a fan kick, a simple just split kick. I actually put out my left hip, and that was 6 years ago. It's still a problem. So it's like you really can injure yourself on the simplest things, and it's usually yourself doing it, because all that was me just whipping my limb and not caring where it ended up. And now I struggle to walk, much like you. I have a lot of pain in it when I walk. It's just one of those things. Being an athlete, heck, just being a person seems to be very detrimental to our health sometimes.
Yeah, honestly, like the older I get, the more I'm like, I haven't gone back to wrestling like since 2020 because of like health issues, and the longer it goes and the more like the health issues recover, I'm like, do I want to go back? Because I think a lot of that it like affects you, right? And I'm just like, okay, if I go back, this could happen, and especially the older now and whatever, like the mental health stuff too, is another huge thing. And I'm just, oh man, like the injuries, like even with like these big wrestlers, and I know Sasha like has had her documentary, which is like honestly made me cry. Like I've watched it like honestly 4 or 5 times now, and it makes me cry every time with like the mental health stuff, and that's huge. And people always ask me, like, I've never told anybody, so you guys have an exclusive. That's the reason I haven't come back, is because of health issues. And will I ever come back? Meh.
There's actually a sentiment that's echoed by a few wrestlers, former wrestlers out here also, just the same mentality where they've had injuries, they've been out for a little bit and they just don't know if they want to come back. But a lot of what is stopping them from coming back is that mental block. And to be honest, it's good to have. It's going to extend the life expectancy a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, whatever you guys decide for yourself and for your health, you know, the fans will always be here to support you and cheer you on no matter what it is you do, whether you continue hosting with the amazing and talented Astrid and myself, or even get back into the ring. You know, we're always got your back.
I mean, I love talking about wrestling. I love talking about the Four Horsewomen. Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird because I don't know if I want, like, the last match I had was against Michael Allen and Richard Clark. Do I want that to be my last match ever? It's not a horrible match to go out with, because in my opinion, I thought that was a great match. I had fun. But do I want it to be? I'm like, I would have rather it been against like Zoe. Like my final like match ever, like against somebody that like I've been next to, like, or Angelica, who was like my first like one-on-one match ever. Like, would I have rather had that? Maybe. But at the same time, do I want to come back? Does it outweigh it? I don't know at this point. We'll see. Ask me after my next birthday.
Pretty sure I actually saw you face Angelica and Red Deer one year.
Yeah, we had a lot of matches in there. Because they're the ones that gave us that opportunity. Some companies in Edmonton didn't want to see it because we were two young bucks. And didn't want us to do that. So we had to go to Red Deer, where they were like willing to give us that opportunity. Because she started like 6 months before me, I think. So when I started going, we were still pretty young, like in wrestling terms, young, fresh.
Yeah.
So they didn't want that to happen. Even though, in my opinion, I thought like we were, like I was so I was so bad. But like everybody is like, your first like 10 matches, it's just like it's not gonna be cute. But I thought that we like had good chemistry, and we were willing to work together, where there was at the time a lot of girls that weren't willing to work with you in that sense, like work with you. Like they were willing to get in the ring with you, but not work with you. So and we were friends. That always helps. The same thing with the Four Horsewomen. They're friends. They want to make each other look good, and it shows. Like when people are like legit friends in the ring, it shows. So, Doug's crying.
Well, to like wrap everything up, does anybody have any final thoughts they want to bring up before we close everything out?
I think we should bring up the most underrated matches from the Four Horsewomen. Yeah, that besides the obvious ones, underrated. Go ahead, Astrid. I want to hear your opinion because I need matches to watch.
Gosh, you're putting pressure on me like this. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like this is the one that I brought up earlier, because that fatal 4-way, I feel like a lot of people don't talk about it. And it's that, that moment that they really face each other, the only time in NXT. And it's incredible when you think about it, that they have been in storylines like intertwined with each other, but this is only the only time you've ever seen them, really, all four of them in the ring at once. And I think it's definitely special, because it definitely shows us like this is the future at the time, when you first see them like this. So I don't have like a new match, but that was like my match that I really loved it. And then when it ended, I was like, wait, it's over? Like I just wanted more from them. And I think ever since that, I've always wanted them to have that 4-way as a main event in WrestleMania. It's always been like my dream match. But either that, or if they ever bring up Evolution, that's the other one that I would like that 4-way to, like main event Evolution 2 or 3, whatever they decide to do.
So good.
But that's the one that I've always wanted.
That's like, that could be a good blueprint on. It's so simple how that match even happened, like how it got booked,
how it ended.
Yeah, and how they can book them now. Like literally take exactly that and put it nowadays, and that's how the match is booked. That's how the match is made. I think it needs to be at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Evolution could be a good way to set it up if they decide to do another pay-per-view. But I don't know if they ever will. I don't think they will. But it needs to be at Mania. I'm sorry. It would be a disservice to people, namely me, if they don't do it at Mania.
Yeah, other than that, I think that's the only one that I can think of. Like, a lot of people always, like you mentioned earlier, they talk about Sasha and Bailey from Brooklyn, or even the 3 with Ronda from WrestleMania, or even the 3-way they had before for the Raw Women's Championship when they got introduced.
So good.
But I feel like the NXT match, I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that one, because I just feel like it, like the vibe from like the match itself, it almost felt like it was a regular NXT kind of weekly show, but it wasn't. It was a takeover, but it was, when it first started, you didn't see it highlighted like it should have been. And the way it ended, it made me want more from them already. That was the part that I was like, can they keep going? Can they cut another match and put this one on longer? Because I was ready for more.
That was one of those matches where they did not take a second to breathe.
Yeah.
Like if we looked away from the screen, we probably missed something, because there was action. Like they were like, okay, they gave us 10 minutes. We're going to pack everything into 10 minutes, but not make it look rushed.
Yeah.
I don't even think they got 10 minutes, if I'm honest. I think if that, but it was so good for 3 younger wrestlers, at the time, because nowadays, a lot of the NXT wrestlers, like they still have the people that have never wrestled before that get signed, but a lot of them have been wrestling for years, right? Like Bailey and Becky, when they came in, they were wrestling for a long time. Sasha had a few years experience, and Charlotte had 0 experience, but they all looked really good.
Oh, I found it. I had to look it up on YouTube, and they uploaded it to the YouTube channel 2 years ago, so it's on YouTube if you want to watch it.
Yeah, the full match should be there.
Yeah, it's NXT Arrival, and it said it was 19 minutes, and I'm guessing with the entrances, it probably was a little bit less in the ring itself. So
19 minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it was
probably
19.
their intros though, probably
Yeah.
about like 7 or 8 minutes.
Well, they probably gave Sasha a few minutes at the end because she won. So
Yeah.
I think that they gave her a few minutes to celebrate.
Yeah, probably. But the match, like, I'm not saying the match itself was 19 minutes, but like the whole video is 19 minutes. So I know the match is probably a little bit less than that, but it just shows you what they could do with the little time they got at the time.
Yeah.
That's what I like about the Stardom sites is they're split up into all of the matches. So like from intro to exit, it's like 19 minutes, but the actual match itself is only about 8 or 9 minutes because their intros are so choreographed and long that it takes them more time than anything else.
Yeah. Like the ramp 10 meters long. They're going to take a while to get there and take their time. And then.
And now like Natsupoi and Tam Nakano are lip syncing their intro. So you have to like wait for that. And they got their cute little tiaras on crooked. It's cute.
The whole vibe, like I need to start watching more. Because like I'll go on YouTube and just go and like watch like random matches. But I'm like, I feel like they're killing it lately, and I need to like get my investment back in there.
Their historic crossover show is going to be coming out next week, 1 a.m. on Saturday. I guess technically Sunday.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Good time.
If anybody has anything else other than that, I'm not sure.
You know what? I don't actually have any matches because I don't recall it. Like I did really enjoy Charlotte Flair and Natty the first time. The second time was a little bit overkill for me. The first time when I believe that Ric Flair, Bret Hart were involved ringside, Charlotte Flair hadn't gone aftermarket yet. She still looked like Charlotte Flair. That match I felt was a good straight out technical wrestling match for Charlotte. It showed her technical ability. I don't feel that it showed her like her power moves and stuff like that. It showed her progressive wrestling. But the thing that stands out to the most to me that is kind of just going talk about it was the separation of Charlotte and Sasha from Summer Rae. That feud in general is kind of triggering me because it was how we ended up getting the version of Sasha and Charlotte that came out of that, which then evolved into what it is that they are now.
Yeah, even now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel that maybe even an unofficial sixth kind of beginning to the Horsemen would have been Summer Rae. I was never really a fan of Summer Rae's in-ring, but I felt that her backstage presence and just who she was backstage was actually insanely important to the development of Sasha and Charlotte in particular.
100%. Because that's when that edge for both of them in NXT started.
Exactly.
Especially Sasha's, because Sasha's has appeared and never left. Charlotte's is like kind of... I don't want to make this a bash on Charlotte, but like hers goes like this, depending on who she's wrestling, right?
Yeah.
So it's very circumstantial, where like Sasha's is very consistent. And of course, when she like wrestles the people that also have a huge edge, hers goes up a little, but she's very consistent with everyone she wrestles. And Becky's like that now too, and Bayley's like that now too. So I hope when Charlotte comes back, she finds that edge that stays. But when they had that, it was very like, I remember them talking about it in something they did where, Charlotte and Sasha talking about it, where they said that like Sasha felt slighted, and because Charlotte got that opportunity before her, even though Sasha was the best. And, and that's where that like extra edge came in, where they like really wanted to prove Charlotte's like, I do deserve that. Whereas Sasha's like, no, I am the best. You did not deserve it. Boom, the edge. And they still carried that to Raw. And they had amazing matches on Raw when they first started in 2016. Like the
long ago, but it was
Falls Count Anywhere match is so good. I think it was a Falls Count Anywhere where the iconic picture / video of Charlotte through the thing and Sasha's got her in her finisher, and it was so good. Like that match was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like an underrated one right there. Is that one right there? I have like a few because I came prepared. But like both Evolution matches, actually, I feel for a while people talked about the Becky Charlotte. Was it the last woman standing match? Yes.
Yeah.
They talked about that one being the best one for a while, but then it fizzled. Like no one talks about that match anymore, I find. But it was so good, and it made like you're like, wow, this is like a grudge match basically. And then also I felt like on that show was the 6-woman tag that who was oh now I'm gonna forget who their partner was. But anyways, Bayley and Sasha were in that 6-woman tag with help me out here, Astrid.
I know, I'm trying to try to find it here.
They were against
So it was
Riot
Bailey. Yeah, it was Riot Squad versus Bailey, Sasha, Natalia. I keep forgetting
Okay.
Natalia was there.
Natalia. I was like, was it Natalia? I feel like she's always there, but we always forget about her, poor girl.
Underrated wrestler right there.
Yeah, completely underrated. But she's kind of like a Charlotte. You know? Solid in the ring.
Can't act.
Can get the job done, but has stayed the same. Even though she's tried to change, she doesn't have that like extra edge that's really set her apart.
She can't be a bad guy. She's not.
She just can't, because even when she's talking shit, I don't take her serious because I'm like,
I just want to laugh.
You're so cute. Just stop that.
You're so soft. Like, why are you saying things? But that's underrated.
We have a reputation for being nice. She needs to kind of represent that.
But that's like another underrated one where I would go back and I'm like, this match felt like it was, I don't know, like there was emotions in that match, even though it was just a 6-woman tag. Like it felt like they felt really emotional at the end when they won, and I felt emotional for some reason. Like I said, even though it was just a 6-woman tag.
Her father had passed away? That Neidhart had passed
No,
away?
I don't think so.
No?
Because that happened the summer that
did mess with her.
No, I don't think he passed away. Sasha said something or did something about that. Oh, yeah, the summer that her dad passed was when Sasha came back and her hair was blue. Yeah. Because I remember that like Sasha like returned and did something and like was like hugging Natty, being like, "Oh, your dad would be so proud" or whatever, and then turns around and clocks her.
Yeah,
it was so good. Like this, whatever. So I think it was that summer. But
okay. I think just the emotional setting of overall like being an Evolution is the first all women's pay-per-view, and they probably didn't know if they were gonna do every bit have that setting again. So I think like that alone makes them emotional, knowing that this is just a pay-per-view that they have worked hard for and they have wanted and they asked for it and they got it, and it's sold out in the arena itself. Even though people don't mention that, the people think, oh, it was a flop. It wasn't really. They sold out the whole arena. They sold out of the merch they had that said Evolution on it because everybody wanted something to remember that specific day. So that's why and this is another thing, like I'm recording a little bit later with Ella about having like an Evolution 2 type of card if we were to have one because of the rumors. And it kept me like thinking about the Horsewomen and just like kind of what would happen if we had that Evolution 2, like how it would have been now, especially like now that I think we're at a time that there's more women wanting women's wrestling and how that even more than back in that year. And it wasn't even that long ago, but I feel like there's more ladies loving wrestling now, more in the open compared to before. So I feel like if we had that sold out and they basically do it now, I feel like not only would it sell out, but I feel like a lot of people would tune in to watch it as well. So that's why I'm hoping in some way they do it. You never know.
The biggest injustice of that pay-per-view was not putting Becky and Charlotte on last. That's the only complaint I have. It was so good.
Yeah.
But they didn't put them on last. And that was the biggest mistake, especially as a stipulation match. Come on. Like it should have been last, because anything that was going after them, unless it was literally Sasha Bayley in a last woman standing or like ladder match or something, I don't know. It had to have been something big. And I'm sorry, it just wasn't good enough. So as in my opinion, that was the main event. I don't care what the card said. But in terms of like super underrated, go look at it. We mentioned it before, Sasha Becky, NXT, before they became the Sasha Becky we know now. So good. Because it was such a good technical match. So watch it. Underrated. And then also on YouTube, because you were just looking up YouTube, the Four Horsewomen tag on Raw in September 2019 was a banger. It was very good.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was very good. And it was before Bayley officially turned heel, like right before that. So she kind of had that little like edge to her, but not.
Still had the wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man.
She did, right? Like she did right in that match. Because yeah, I was just watching it actually earlier because I wanted to like bring that up. But I always talk about that match because it was so good. But it was just a Raw. But the four of them, like, oh, it was so good. Yeah.
We need those matches on pay-per-views and main eventing WWE.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Before they retire, like, if they don't give us that four-way, let me just tell you, I will be so upset.
You'll be rioting on the street.
I will never watch wrestling again.
It's like for me, the Shield members, like, I wanted that three-way at WrestleMania somehow. It's like, I like that they had
a match when they finally gave it.
Yeah, I feel like the only time that I ever had not something like exactly that, but when they all had the championship, the WWE championship in the same night, because it was I think Roman had the match and then Seth won it and then Dean cashed in on him, so it was the same night for all the Shield members to be champion, which I like that. But at the same time, it's like I would love that three-way, especially with like the current, you know, how they were like even before, like Dean towards the end of Moxley, towards the end of his WWE career, but like those type of characters right now, I would have loved it right now too.
And the history, right? Like it's the same thing right now with Roman and Sammy and Jay and all that. If there's going to be any one person that's going to dethrone Roman Reigns, I'm sorry, but it needs to be Sami Zayn right now.
I'll be surprised if it isn't, to be honest.
It has to be. Like, he's so lovable and like people just want him and rooting for him. But if they wait too long, people are going to start turning on him. And Mania's coming up.
The way they did Roman, yeah.
Yeah, Mania's coming up, and if Sammy is not the one, who is? I don't know.
Yeah. At this point, they're not really setting up anybody else, from what I hear. I don't watch the show regularly. I just get my information from Astrid and Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter.
So I don't see anybody else being built in such a way that they could have anybody other than Sammy face him. So, yeah.
It's like the Bailey. Bailey's got to win. Sammy's got to
win. True. Yeah, I guess to like really close out. I know you don't have a lot going on, like you said, because you're not wrestling. But if you had anything else going on, Kayla, or whatever, people can find you. Let everybody know the social medias where they can find you.
Just Kayla Jaye on everything.
Easy, I think that's what it is. Like,
no
does it have two E's? I think. Yeah.
Yeah, Twitter is 2 A's. Instagram, I think, is 2 A's, but I don't post on Instagram, so don't even ask to follow me on that. But yeah, on Twitch, it's 2 E's.
There you go.
But I don't do anything on that either, so just follow me on Twitter.
Join the conversation on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Tell me how you feel about Bayley being the triumphant Four Horsewoman.
Yeah, give your opinions about the Horsewoman to Kayla and see how she feels about it later.
Yeah,
and if it's anything other than Bayley winning, it better be Sasha, but it still better be Bayley.
Well, Miss Mel, who's been booked now and busy recently, where can the people find you?
Busy. On Twitter, you can find me at Collins Melball, and you can find me on the opposite at Melball Collins on Instagram. On YouTube and Facebook, you can find me at Andre and Melball's Wrestling Talk. We're putting up multiple shows now every week, just because New Japan and Stardom are running multiple tournaments, and we got to keep you guys up to date with that. And we are also going to be having a special watch along, as I mentioned, next Saturday for the historic New Japan and Stardom crossover show, where we're going to see not only New Japan matches and Stardom matches, but we're going to see intergender matches happening, and the women are main eventing a New Japan show. The main event is going to be Mayu Iwatani taking on Kairi for the first ever IWGP Women's Championship. I'm going to be watching along live with my partner Andre and a special guest, so you want to stay tuned for that.
That's going to be so good.
It's
going to be so good. honestly,
Cannot wait.
I don't know how people stay up for
And
those shows, but honestly, like if you're
Rogue
that would be
energy.
it. Yeah, that would be it. That's the one I'm actually gonna be like, yeah, I gotta rewatch this one. So good.
And Astrid, where can we follow
Mm.
you on all of your socials, my dear?
well, my Twitter's like it's there, Astrid Pizarro. My Instagram's Astrid Pizarro 20 because somebody took the Astrid Pizarro, so I couldn't match it up to everything else, unfortunately. I'm finally in the Twitch affiliate, so you can find me doing Twitch stuff more often now. This is going to be one of those that's going to be live on Twitch. Woo! Other than that, Tuesdays I got taking over with Parrish, and then Thursdays making an impact with Cody. We talk about Impact Wrestling, and then we'll be doing this as always bi-weekly. And then my Astrid Ask will be once a month, so I'm hoping to book somebody for December. If not, January, we'll see. But that's what I and I always forget this one on the weekends. My NXT review on Women's Wrestling Talk that I keep forgetting about sometimes when I mention it because it's writing. Better than that, thank you all for watching. I hope we entertain you for this like hour and a half at this point when you watch everything now. But I love the conversation about bringing up, how the characters are, how the girls have evolved into what they are now. But if you have any thoughts that we didn't bring up, you can always leave it in the comments. Just be civil about it. We'll love to have discussions about how, what you thought and what you agreed and disagreed with us. So let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to like and subscribe and on my YouTube channel as well. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.